I awoke to the sound of dripping water. It was coming from somewhere in the kitchen, the open door just a few feet away. The smell hit me, just as pungent as it was when I went to sleep. My eyes started to water at the pure concentration of the odor, and the nausea set in. How long had it been since I arrived here? A week? A month? It sure felt like forever, but time was useless for me, since I knew however long it had been wouldn't affect how long it would be until I could leave. I heard the muffled humming, coming from a distance. It was him. He was on his way back. As he got closer, I heard the scrape of the rifle's rusty old barrel against the dirt. He was humming the song he always did when he caught some fresh game, and I could hear the pleasure in his deep grumble of a hum. His boots were hitting the ground with a satisfying thump, and he sounded in no way of a hurry. The steps got closer, and I heard him walk up the creaky wooden porch towards the old door. The door opened slowly, but with purpose. The man, who was built big and stocky, with large hands and feet and more hair on his chest than a werewolf, walked slowly towards the kitchen, still humming his tune. In his hand I could see a dead rabbit, its lifeless body dangling like a deflated balloon after a birthday party. He walked through the doorway, and I heard a loud plunk as he set the rabbit down on a wooden board somewhere. I had just started to realize how hungry I was. I couldn't remember the last time eating. When the man came back out, I let out a faint whisper. "Please, please, please give me something to eat." The man looked at me and gave me a creepy smile. A small chuckle came out, and then silence. "But you haven't even started performing for me today." I knew this meant that I wasn't getting fed for a while. The blisters on me hands and feet were killing me, and looked infected. If only the chain wasn't so strong, I could probably break them and make an escape. The man went back into the kitchen, and I heard him open and close the refrigerator. He walked out holding a cold beer, and slowly made his way towards the couch in the room across from me. He sat on his couch, let out a great big sigh, and turned on the television. I was sitting there alone in the dark for what seemed like hours, hunger driving me insane. I tried again and again to slip my feet out of the chains, but was to no prevail. They were too tight around my bony ankles. I fell back to sleep, wishing it could all be over. After a few minutes, I hear him stomping up a staircase, and possible dragging something behind him. He shuts a door, and I heard the familiar sound of something locking. He makes his way over to me, with a crazed look on his face. He is covered in blood from head to toe, and is holding what seems to be some sort of kitchen knife. He walks back into the kitchen, and drops his weapon into the sink. The man comes back out, still blood dripping from his beard, and walks over to me, holding a whip. He leans over, and I can smell the alcohol on his breath. "You want to be fed?" I give a small nod, and he unravels his whip. "Well, you are going to have to work for it." The way he said this deeply unsettled me, and I could tell that whatever was coming, it was not going to be fun. "Dance for me," he said, but all I could do was show confusion in my expression, as I had no idea what he mean. "Dance for me now." He this at the top of his lungs. I stood up, and started moving my body, but I wouldn't call it dancing. The man took the whip in one hand, leaned back, and looked like he was ready to strike. With one quick movement, he took a hard whip at my feet, hitting the top of my right foot. I fell to the ground and started sobbing. He commanded that I get up and continue, and I tried my best to fulfill his orders. He again started whipping my feet until I started dancing as fast as I could. After about 5 minutes of this, I collapsed from exhaustion. The man gave one final chuckle and walked into the kitchen again, with a wide smile on his face. He grabbed the dead rabbit and brought it back. He put his large hands around the rabbit, one on its head and one right below the neck. He pulled until an awful sound of bones breaking and flesh ripping pierced the air around me. The head of the rabbit, now free from the body, was gripped in the man's right hand, like he was palming a basketball. He dropped the rabbit's head on the ground in front of me and said, "Eat up." He laughed his cackling laugh and walked back into the room with the television. At this point, was frozen in fear. The hunger was so overwhelming, but the sight of the decapitated rabbit almost made me lose my appetite. Almost. What I did next was unspeakable, and the sheer thought of it makes me cringe. When I was finished, I laid on the floor in a ball and cried myself to sleep. I still heard the man chuckling throughout the night and eating what smelled to be rotten meat. I awoke to the sound of dripping water. It was coming from somewhere in the kitchen, the open door just a few feet away. The smell hit me, just as pungent as it was when I went to sleep. My eyes started to water at the pure concentration of the odor, and the nausea set in. How long had it been since I arrived here? A week? A month? It sure felt like forever, but time was useless for me, since I knew however long it had been wouldn't affect how long it would be until I could leave. Bordering my property line, a manufactured home is left to be devoured by Mother Nature, abandoned. I have owned my property for multiple years, and, throughout that time, an owner has never been present, nor had I seen anything suspicious, until recently. On August 20th of this year, police were dispatched to the home with an arrest warrant. The 20th of August was a Saturday, so being woken up around 7 a.m. to such a commotion was an unpleasant surprise. This was until, however, I realized it could finally give me the opportunity to know some history of the abandoned home. Unfortunately, the police were, understandably, unable to speak during the open investigation. They did, however, let me know that the owner of the home has been marked as a threat to himself and others. The man said for me to be on the lookout and that if I see anything out of the ordinary, I should give them a call. A day or two passed and I noticed the police had accidentally left the front door ajar. I made a mental note to close the door when I got a chance so Mother Nature could not make her way inside. The next day, I walked from my property to close the door. I was perplexed as I approached and realized the door was now closed. I decided to walk around the home to inspect its condition and ensure the back door was not open or unlocked. Upon getting to the rear of the house, I noticed there was a small bedroom missing a lower window pane. The opening was small, but it was sizable enough to fit a smaller person. I noticed the back door was closed, however. I reached up to grab the door handle. I was caught off guard by the door gliding open with ease, without me even turning the handle. I took a momentary glance and closed the door. After that, I went to the open window to peek inside before I left. As I carefully placed my head in the window, I noticed a sticky note on the floor in the bedroom, lying in front of a closed door directly to my left with "Bathroom" written in Sharpie on it. It was close, so I reached inside and grabbed the note. As I was taking in my last moment in the room, I was petrified to hear the back door, about 4 feet to the right of the window, smash against the wall I was leaning on. I pulled my head out of the window and, without hesitation, ran around the left side of the house back toward my property. When I got to the front, I saw a white male, around 5 feet 8 inches in height, running in a similar direction as me. We saw each other clearly. After noticing that we were running in similar directions, he turned around and started to go the opposite way. I stood stationary with a racing heart, sifting through my pockets for my phone to call the police. I knew, however, it would be too late. When they showed up, I offered the police the best description I could give, and they went on their way. This time, we made sure the door was closed and locked. When I got back home, I decided to try and figure out the history of the property, the owner, or anything I could find that could help give me peace of mind after these two incidents. I was unsure of the address, so I went to Zillow to see if it is listed there. I have noticed Zillow typically has a surprising amount of information. Fortunately, the home had been for sale in 2011, until it was quickly purchased, so I was able to find basic documentation, including the address. Why would someone buy a home just to leave it abandoned? The interior was in decent shape, and aside from the porch, the exterior could be cleaned up easily. Upon researching the address for an hour or two, I, disappointingly, produced no information. Finally, I decided to check out the county arrest record as a final effort for information. The most recent arrest was a man charged with possession of Schedule 2, possession of Schedule 4, and attempting to elude. The last charge was a massive red flag. My local sheriff's office does not seem to release mugshots publicly, so I could not identify the man's appearance on their side. Instead, I copied his name and searched it into Google. I was met by not only a youthful photo of the guy I saw hours earlier, but a plethora of articles on both a local and national level about him. He has been arrested many times, but I was stunned as I started scrolling articles about one arrest. For my safety, I am going to keep every identity and location confidential. In April of 2012, he was arrested and accused of killing a hiker. Articles from 2014 unpack new case discoveries and updates, but also go into the personal life of the murderer. Newly publicized records at the time show that he was the caretaker of his aunt. His aunt had dementia and needed help with everyday tasks, help that he was meant to provide. His aunt passed away in November of 2012 alone. In the latter half of 2014, the trial was finally starting, and the man was making a spectacle of himself. Local news covered his trial in detail and capitalized off of it. Armed by documentation and well-respected lawyers, the man was able to successfully pull off an extremely rare insanity plea and was sentenced to mandatory treatment, whatever that means. While the initial arrest was made about 2 hours away, I was shocked to see past news coverage showing the house in the background. According to 2014 coverage, the home belonged to the aunt of the killer. This home is where they lived at the time of the incident. While the status of the home is unclear, I wonder what the future holds for it and who owns it. I have been thinking about it a lot lately, and honestly, I am starting to feel uneasy about the potential risks. I hate my life. I just made some new friends at this stupid school, and now I have to move again because of my father's stupid new job. We're moving to the other side of the country. I just wish we could stay in a town for more than a few months, but no. Every job just gets better and better, so we have to move. I've been doing some research on the new town we were moving into. I'll just say that there are some pretty messed up headlines for this place. Most of them about kids going insane, some murders here and there. Nothing shocks me anymore considering some of the places that I've been. When we arrived, I got out of the U-Haul truck and looked up at the huge mansion-looking house. Really? Is a house this big necessary for your needed office space? I say in sarcastic tone, looking at the dead grass surrounding this house. Jordan, watch your tone. My mother hisses at me. He's just going through his puberty years. My dad says, chuckling under his breath. Doesn't matter. He shouldn't be disrespectful. My mom says, and I walk into the house carrying my things. I look around the dark house and at the peeling wallpaper on the walls. There are still several pictures of the old family that lived here before they left. My parents walk into the house behind me holding some of their stuff, and I look at them questioningly. Do you know what happened to the family that was here? Back in 1950-something. I ask. We do, but can we discuss it at dinner? We should get most of our stuff away first, my father says, and I agree. I walk upstairs, pick a smallish square room, and set my boxes down. I look around the empty room and put my hands in my hoodie pockets. Along one wall, there are 3 windows. 2 are square, and 1 is an oval. On the opposite wall, there are 2 wooden closet doors that look like they could turn to ash at the touch. There is a small bed along the wall next to the closet doors, and a huge wall space. I open the box with my posters of bands, and look up. A boy, who looks to be about 17 or 18, was standing in front of me. He had dark hair, blue eyes, and an ugly stained blue shirt with a black jacket. He wore ripped jeans and brown muddy boots. "Oh, I didn't know someone was in here," I said cautiously, standing up. The boy just looked at me. He didn't say a word, and he didn't move a muscle. He just stared at me. "You gonna talk, or?" I said, inspecting him a bit. He looked like a normal teen, except for his unnaturally thin body and pale skin, and the bottom half of his face is covered by a mask. "Okay. Well, I think it's time you left," I say as I bend down to pick up another box to set it on the bed. When I stand back up, I'm the only person in the room. Everything is normal, except for muddy boot prints where the boy was standing. "That's odd." I look around the floor to see if he left anything else, but there were no other prints. I look over at the bed and see a bit of white sticking out from under the sheets. I walk over to the bed, pull out the paper, and turn it over to see a photo. A photo of a family. There was a mother, father, 2 sons, and a daughter. Almost immediately, I recognize one of the sons. It was the boy who was just in my room. I turn the photo over again, looking for a date. July 18th, 1952. I read aloud to myself, and I look around the room once more. That's impossible. I know what happened to this family. They were killed. I wanted to tell my parents this, but of course it has to wait till dinner. I know that it was one of the children that murdered the family, but I just can't remember which one it was. Joseph, I think. That's all I can remember from my research about this family. I set the remaining boxes on my bed and unpack. I open the closet doors carefully and see that there is still some old clothes from the family. The top half of a mask, some jackets and button-down shirts, and some pairs of shoes and boots. I put my clothes on the hangers inside and put them away. I also put some stuff that has no place in my room on a shelf at the top of the closet. We decided to get takeout from a nearby Japanese restaurant. As I scarf down some teriyaki chicken and fried rice, my mother says something quite interesting. "Jordan, we know you'll hate us for this," she begins as I look up at her. "The family that was here before us, they were murdered." "Oh, I knew that already," I say, and go back to eating my chicken. "What?" "Excuse me, but I don't remember dash," my father starts, but remembers about my obsession with history. "You did your research, didn't you?" he says, looking down. "Of course. Can't move into a new house without any kind of warning without doing research," I say, eating more chicken and rice. "Did you know that one of the sons were convinced that he was telekinetic?" I say with a bit of a chuckle. My parents can't help but laugh a bit, too. After dinner, we go to our bedrooms and sleep. After having several awful nightmares of rapid flashing images, I jumped up awake at around 2 a.m. I look around the room, then rub my eyes. I look at my feet to see a doll at the foot of my bed. "The fuck?" I say quietly to myself, not wanting to wake up my parents. I slowly sit up and lean over to the doll. Its beady eyes seem to follow me. I pick it up, look at it, and throw it under my bed. When I go to sit up on the bed, the boy from earlier is right in front of me. His face is inches from mine. I yelp and jump back. After a minute, "Wait, are you?" I ask in a whisper. "My name is Joseph," I hear a voice from behind me say. It was raspy and low in tone, and was creepy in general. "You're there." "Yes, I am," he says without moving his mouth. I start to tremble. He should be dead. This shouldn't be happening. "Oh, I'm dead all right. And don't worry. You can join us," he says. He takes off the mask to reveal a terrifying smile. It stretches from ear to ear, and it's held shut with stitches. He opens his mouth to show his full smile, and breaks the stitches in the process. Black chunky blood starts oozing out of the cuts in his cheeks, and he holds up his hand. "You'll just need some modifications," he says, smiling evilly. I start to back up, but hit the headboard of the bed. He spreads his fingers, and my mouth opens. He slowly clenches his fist, and my cheeks start to burn. I start to scream as the corners of my lips get torn in half. Surely enough, my dad bursts through the door. "Who the hell are you?" my father screams. He grabs his shotgun and fires. The bullets pass straight through the creature on top of me, and the black blood drips on me. The creature clenches his fist harder, and my cheeks get even more torn. My father runs up and hits this thing in the head with the butt of the gun. He falls back and grunts in pain. "Jordan, get out of here. Go to your mother," my dad yells. I get up and run to my parents' bedroom. I grab my mother's arm and hide in the closet with her. We hide behind layers of clothes. I can see my mother and a sliver of the door to the bedroom. We are completely silent. A warm blood drips down my cheeks and onto my shirt. The black blood from that thing is still on me. We hear 3 shots of the gun, then a loud thud. After a few seconds, that demon walks into the room, holding my father's arm. He drops my dead dad to the ground and wipes his bloody hands on his jeans. I look at my mother, who is crying into her shirt, and hold one finger to my lips. She nods and covers her mouth. Joseph, as he calls himself, smiles again. He walks over to the closet and opens the doors. My mother hold my breath. "You humans are so idiotic." He holds his hand up, snaps his fingers, and my mother gets dragged out of the closet. He holds his hand up, and my mother practically levitated into the middle of the room. He makes some sort of twisting motion with his hands, and my mother's legs snap backwards. She gives out a blood-curdling scream, and I cover my ears and cry. "This is just a dream. This can't be real. This is impossible." My mother drops to the floor, and with one foot, Joseph steps on her throat. My mother's screams go silent as I watch the life escape from her eyes. 2 down, 1 to go, Joseph says in his low, demonic voice. He gives out a loud cackle. He takes out a needle and thread, and starts to sew his own mouth up again. I pull out my phone, and silently call 911. "Hello. This is 911. What's your emergency?" the dispatcher asks. Help me. There's someone in my house," I say in a whisper. I look at Joseph as he finishes stitching his mouth. "All right. We are tracking your address now, and the police should be there in about 5-minute dash." My phone's battery depletes. "Damn it," I yell to myself. "I'm a goner." I think he sees me. His blue eyes are staring at me through my closet door. I can see his stitches that line his psychotic smile, and they make me sick. I can see the dark energy flowing from his hands as he looks at me. I don't know how long I'll survive anymore. The police should be here in 5 minutes, but I know he'll have me dead before then. I hold back tears as I see my mother sprawled across the floor, her broken legs out of view. He holds up his hand, and she goes flying away, out of sight. "Mom!" I scream, covering my mouth right after. He looks at the closet and walks towards me. "I know you're in here, you little brat," he says as he rips the closet doors apart. I scream for someone, anyone, to come and help, but everyone's dead. He grabs my arm and throws me out of the closet. My head crashes against the window and cracks the thick glass. He walks over to me, his brown-stained boots making prints on the hardwood floor. He raises his hand, clenches it into a fist, and the last thing I hear is my neck snapping, and everything went black.